Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my series, Great Expectations. Without further ado, returning to Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I dropped my face into my hands, but was able to control myself better than I could have expected, considering what agony it gave me to hear her say those words. When I raised my face again, there was such a ghastly look upon Miss Havisham's that it impressed me, even in my passionate hurry and grief.
Estella, dearest Estella, do not let Miss Havisham lead you into this fatal step. Put me aside forever. You have done so, I well know, but bestow yourself on some worthier person than Drummle. Miss Havisham gives you to him as the greatest slight and injury that could be done to the many far better men who admire you, and to the few who truly love you. Among those few, there may be one who loves you even as dearly, though it has not loved you as long as I. Take him, and I bear it better, and I can bear it better. Take him, and I can bear it better, for your sake.
My earnestness awoke a wonder in her that seemed as if it would have been touched with compassion, if she could have rendered me at all intelligible to her own mind.
I am going, she said again,
in a gentler voice,
to be married to him. The preparations for my marriage are making, and I shall be married soon. Why do you injuriously introduce the name of my mother by adoption? It is my own act. Your own act, Estella? To fling yourself away upon a brute? On whom should I fling myself away? She retorted,
with a smile.
Should I fling myself away upon the man who would the soonest feel, if people do feel such things?
That I took nothing to him. There, it is done. I shall do well enough, and so will my husband. Excuse me, that should be in her voice. Continuing on.
As to leading me into what you call this fatal step, Miss Havisham would have had me wait and not marry yet. But I am tired of the life I have led, which has very few charms for me, and I am willing enough to change it. Say no more. We shall never understand each other. Such a mean brute, such a stupid brute,
I urged in despair.
Don't be afraid of my being a blessing to him, said Estella. I shall not be that. Come, here's my hand. Do we part on this, you visionary boy or man? Oh, Estella,
I answered, as my bitter tears fell fast on her hand, do what I would to restrain them.
Even if I remained in England, and could hold my head up with the rest, how could I see you Drummle's wife? Nonsense, she returned. Nonsense. This will pass in no time. Never, Estella. You will get me out of your thoughts in a week. Out of my thoughts? You are part of my existence, part of myself. You have been in every line I have ever read since I first came here. The rough, common boy whose poor heart you wounded ever since. You have been in every prospect I have ever seen since, on the river, on the sails of the ships, on the marshes, in the clouds, in the light, in the darkness, in the wind, in the woods, in the sea, in the streets. You have been the embodiment of every graceful fancy that my mind has ever become acquainted with. The stones of which the strongest London buildings are made are not more real or more impossible to be displaced by your hands than for your presence and influence to have been to me, there and everywhere, and will be. Estella, to the last hour of my life you cannot choose but remain part of my character, part of the little good in me, part of the evil. But in this separation I associate you only with the good, and I will faithfully hold you to that always, for you must have done me far more good than harm. Let me feel now what sharp distress I may. Oh, God bless you. God forgive you.
In what ecstasy of unhappiness I got these broken words out of myself, I don't know. The rhapsody welled up within me, like blood from an inward wound, and gushed out. I held her hand to my lips some lingering moments, and so I left her. But ever afterwards I remembered, and soon afterwards with stronger reason, that while Estella looked at me merely with incredulous wonder, that the spectral figure of Miss Havisham, her hands covering her heart, seemed all resolved into a ghastly stare of pity and remorse. All done, all gone. So much was done and gone, that when I went out at the gate, the light of the day seemed a darker color than when I went in. For a while I hid myself among some lanes and bypaths, and then struck off to walk all the way to London. For I had by that time come to myself so far as to consider that I could not go back to the inn and see Drummle there. I could not bear to sit upon the coach and be spoken to, that I could not do nothing half so good for myself as tire myself out. It was past midnight when I crossed London Bridge, pursuing the narrow intricacies of the streets, which at that time tended westward near the Middlesex shore of the river. My readiest access to the temple was close by the riverside, through Whitefriars. I was not expected till tomorrow, but I had my keys, and, if Herbert were gone to bed, could get to bed myself without disturbing him. As it seldom happened that I came in at that Whitefriars gate after the temple was closed, and as I was very muddy and weary, I did not take it ill that the night porter examined me with much attention, as he held the gate a little way open for me to pass in. To help his memory, I mentioned my name.
I was not quite sure, sir, but I thought so. Here's a note, sir. The messenger that brought it said, would you be so good as to read it by my lantern?
Much surprised by the request, I took the note. It was directed to Philip Pip, Esquire, and on the top of the superscription were the words, "Please read this here." I opened it, the watchman holding up his light, and read inside, in Wemmick's writing, "Don't go home." Chapter 45. Turning from the temple gate as soon as I had read the warning, I made the best of my way to Fleet Street, and there got a late hackney chariot and drove to the Hummums in Covent Garden. In those times a bed was always to be got there at any hour of the night, and the chamberlain, letting me in at his ready wicket, lighted the candle next in order on his shelf, and showed me straight into the bedroom next in order on his list. It was a sort of vault on the ground floor at the back, with a despotic monster of a four-post bedstead in it, straddling over the whole place, putting one of his arbitrary legs into the fireplace and another into the doorway, and squeezing that wretched little washing-stand in quite a divinely righteous manner. As I had asked for a night-light, the chamberlain had brought me in, before he left me, the good old constitutional rushlight of those virtuous days, an object like the ghost of a walking cane, which instantly broke its back if it were touched, which nothing could ever be lighted at, and which was placed in solitary confinement at the bottom of a high tin tower, perforated with round holes that made a staringly wide-awake pattern on the walls. When I had got into bed, and lay there footsore, weary, and wretched, I found that I could no more close my own eyes than I could close the eyes of this foolish Argus. We'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
as it greatly helps the channel.
Light be with you all. Take care. And thanks again.